The massive viewport aboard the Celestial Dominion displayed Earth as a small blue marble. Supreme Overlord Taiwan studied it with cold detachment. His scaled fingers tapped rhythmically against the polished obsidian of his command throne. "Such a tiny world," he remarked, "yet so much water." High Commander Daeho stepped forward, his ceremonial armor clicking with each movement. The battle-scarred veteran had personally led campaigns against dozens of civilizations across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. The humans have only achieved rudimentary spaceflight, Overlord. Their technology is at least 5 centuries behind our standard. They've barely established outposts on their neighboring planets. Science Director Ji Young approached with a holographic display hovering above her palm. The slender, 6-fingered alien skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed her excitement. "Their biology is fascinating," she said. "They've evolved in a high-gravity environment with remarkable adaptability to temperature variations. Their short lifespans have accelerated their cultural development. They create art, music, and literature at an impressive rate." Taiwan waved dismissively. "Cultural achievements matter little. Can they fight?" "They war constantly among themselves," Daeho replied. "Primitive weaponry mostly. Kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, limited energy weapons. Nothing that could penetrate even our most basic shields." The Supreme Overlord rose from his throne. For 10,000 years, the galactic hegemony had expanded without serious challenge. What began as a coalition of 3 advanced species had grown to encompass half the galaxy. Their process was always the same: identification, assessment, diplomatic contact, and then absorption. Most civilizations surrendered immediately. Those who resisted were quickly subdued. "Prepare the diplomatic vessel," Taiwan ordered. "Let's follow protocol." 3 days later, Ambassador Sang-min's sleek diplomatic craft entered Earth's atmosphere. Unlike the massive warships waiting beyond the moon, this vessel was designed to impress rather than intimidate. A gleaming silver teardrop trailing luminous, particles that scattered rainbow patterns across the sky. World leaders gathered in a hastily prepared reception area. Military forces stood at high alert worldwide as the alien ship descended onto the United Nations Plaza in New York. Ambassador Sang-min emerged with his delegation. Though humanoid, his elongated limbs and iridescent skin marked him clearly as non-human. Advanced universal translators converted his melodic speech patterns into all Earth languages simultaneously. "People of Earth," he began, his voice broadcasting globally, "I bring greetings from the galactic hegemony, rulers of 10,000 worlds. Our civilization spans half the galaxy. We have watched your development with interest." The prepared speech continued, expertly crafted over millennia of first contacts. He spoke of the benefits of joining the hegemony: advanced technology, medical knowledge that could eliminate disease, faster-than-light travel capabilities, and protection from less benevolent cosmic forces. What he didn't explicitly state, but what was clearly implied, resistance was futile and acceptance was the only logical choice. When he finished, Sang-min presented the Earth representatives with a crystalline data sphere containing the standard vassalage agreement. The terms were simple. Earth would maintain internal autonomy but would supply resources, allow hegemony bases on their world, and contribute soldiers to the imperial forces. The ambassador expected immediate acceptance. Perhaps some token negotiations. Over resource quotas. Primitives always worried about such things. But fundamental agreement. Instead, after 3 days of deliberation, Earth's response was delivered by a coalition of leaders. "We appreciate your offer," their spokesperson said, "but Earth chooses to remain independent. We welcome peaceful exchange and dialogue as equals, but we cannot accept subordinate status." Sang-min was genuinely confused. In his 5 centuries, as a diplomatic envoy, he had never encountered outright rejection. He attempted to clarify the situation. "Perhaps I was unclear. The hegemony spans half the galaxy. Our technological capabilities exceed yours by millennia. This is not an equal relationship. We offer protection and advancement in exchange for allegiance." "We understand completely," the human replied. "Our answer remains the same." Back aboard the Celestial Dominion, The Hegemony Council received Sang-min's report with disbelief. They refused? Taewon's voice was dangerously quiet. A pre-interstellar civilization refused us? They speak of independence and self-determination, Sang-min explained. They referenced their own history of resisting colonization. Science Director Ji Young examined her data streams. This is consistent with patterns in their literature and historical records. Humans display unusual attachment to concepts of freedom, even when resistance appears irrational. It's always the same with primitive worlds, General Hyunwoo interjected. His battle exoskeleton whirred as he stood. Unlike the others, he seemed pleased by the development. They need a demonstration of consequence before they understand reality. Taewon considered the options. Full invasion was excessive for such a minor world. Standard procedure called for a limited military action, enough to demonstrate hegemony, power without damaging potentially valuable infrastructure. Prepare a single battle group, he ordered Hyunwoo. Target their largest military installations and government centers. Avoid civilian population centers where possible. We want submission, not annihilation. General Hyunwoo bowed sharply. The 33rd Tactical Group should be sufficient. 1 command carrier, 6 destroyers, support craft. We can have orbital superiority within hours. Proceed, Taewon commanded. Let them witness true power. Then we'll see if they still cling to their independence. As the meeting dispersed, Science Director Ji Young lingered. Supreme Overlord, may I speak freely? Of course. There's something unusual in the human response pattern. Their defiance seems informed, as if they understand more than they should. Taewon dismissed her concern. You overthink, Director. They're primitives, making primitive decisions. Soon they'll join the 200 other species who serve the hegemony. Prepare the integration protocols. We'll need them within the week. As the invasion fleet prepared for departure, none of the hegemony leaders noticed the small, unmarked human satellites that had been tracking their movements since they entered the solar system. Nor did they detect the advanced sensor arrays hidden beneath Earth's surface, technology far beyond what they believed humans possessed. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of galactic power, and neither side fully understood what was about to begin. General Hyunwoo's battle group emerged from hyperspace just beyond Earth's moon. 6 sleek destroyers arranged in perfect formation around the massive command carrier, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that distorted the starlight around them. Smaller scout vessels darted ahead, scanning for defensive positions. Primitive. Detection systems identified, reported the sensor officer. They're tracking us with radio waves and basic optical arrays. Hyunwoo smiled, displaying rows of sharp teeth. Begin the first wave. Target their military installations as planned. The destroyers launched fighter squadrons, hundreds of teardrop-shaped craft that streaked toward Earth, their pilots connected directly to their vessels through neural interfaces. Behind them came the heavy bombers, carrying gravitational weapons designed to crush military bases without radioactive fallout. In the hidden command center beneath Mount Hala, Admiral Kim watched the approaching armada with steady eyes. The TC veteran officer had spent decades in military service, but nothing in human history compared to this moment. They've deployed exactly as predicted, he said calmly. Activate Defense Protocol Omega. Around him, officers relayed commands with practiced efficiency. Colonel Park, his second in command, stood at his shoulder. Should we reveal our full capabilities? She asked quietly. Admiral Kim shook his head. Not yet. Let them think this is all we have. As the alien fighters entered the atmosphere, they encountered what appeared to be relatively primitive defense systems, missile batteries and fighter jets. The hegemony pilots reported easy targets, shooting down Earth aircraft that seemed hopelessly outmatched in both speed and weaponry. Then something unexpected happened. A squadron of hegemony fighters suddenly lost power, their systems going completely dark. They plummeted from the sky, pilots unable to eject as their neural interfaces locked up. What's happening? Demanded General Hyunwoo as reports flooded in. On the command carrier's main screen, footage showed Earth fighters that had appeared, damaged or destroyed, suddenly reactivating, executing impossible maneuvers to target the alien craft. Missiles that had seemed to miss their targets circled back, guided by some invisible hand. In his command center, Admiral Kim allowed himself a small smile as he watched the tactical display. "Captain Han, your team is performing admirably." Captain Han's voice came through the communication system from his position in the field. "The adaptive EMP bursts are working perfectly, sir. Dr. Lee's phase-shifting technology lets us target their systems without affecting our own." The truth was devastating for the invaders. Humans had detected hegemony scout ships years earlier. Instead of announcing the discovery, Earth's governments had united in secret, pooling resources to prepare defenses while maintaining the appearance of ignorance. They had recovered and studied crashed scout ships, reverse-engineered key technologies, and prepared specifically to counter hegemony tactics. Captain Han led specialized strike teams, hiding within seemingly abandoned facilities. As alien bombers approached what they believed were critical military targets, his teams activated localized electromagnetic fields that disrupted the bombers' guidance systems, causing them to crash into empty terrain rigged with energy absorption, arrays that contained their explosions. In orbit, the destroyers launched the second wave only to encounter another surprise. Earth's apparently primitive satellites suddenly revealed advanced capabilities, firing targeted energy beams that overloaded shield generators. Dr. Lee, a brilliant physicist who had dedicated her career to understanding alien technology, monitored the battle from her laboratory. "The frequency modulators are working," she reported. "Their shields can't adapt to our shifting attack patterns." The hegemony forces had expected to establish orbital dominance within hours. Instead, 12 hours into the assault, they had lost over 60% of their fighters and 2 destroyers. Aboard the Celestial Dominion, Supreme Overlord Tae-won received the battle reports with increasing fury. "Impossible!" he snarled, smashing a display panel. "How could primitives resist our technology?" Science Director Ji Young carefully reviewed the incoming data. "They were prepared for us," she said slowly. "Their countermeasures are too specific to be coincidental. They knew we were coming and how we would attack." "They're adapting too quickly," added Fleet Commander June, a veteran of hundreds of campaigns. His expression betrayed growing concern. "Even species with more advanced technology haven't shown this level of tactical flexibility." On Earth, Admiral Kim authorized the next phase. Hidden lunar installations revealed themselves, launching missiles that targeted the remaining destroyers. These weren't crude nuclear weapons, but sophisticated projectiles guided by quantum-entangled systems immune to hegemony jamming. General Hyun-woo watched in horror as another destroyer erupted in flames, its reactor core breached by Earth's weapons. "Retreat to defensive positions," he ordered. "Regroup beyond their moon's orbit." As the battered invasion force withdrew, Captain Han's ground teams advanced to recover alien technology from downed craft. Each piece would be studied, understood, and incorporated into Earth's growing arsenal. "They're retreating," reported Colonel Park, monitoring the battlefield displays. Admiral Kim nodded grimly. "This was just their first attempt. They'll be back with greater numbers." On the command carrier, General Hyun-woo composed his report to Supreme Overlord Tae-won. For the first time in his military career, he struggled to explain a defeat. When Tae-won received the report, his rage was legendary. Ancient artifacts shattered against bulkheads as he roared in fury. The hegemony had not faced serious military resistance in over 3,000 years, and never from a pre-interstellar civilization. "Prepare the main battle fleet," he ordered, his voice deadly calm after the outburst. "Every available warship. I will lead the assault personally." Fleet Commander June's expression revealed his thoughts before he spoke. "Supreme Overlord, committing our main force to a single world seems... Are you questioning my orders?" Tae-won's eyes narrowed dangerously. June bowed his head. "No, Supreme Overlord. I will prepare the fleet." As he left the command chamber, June couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. In all his centuries of service, he had never seen such effective resistance. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were fighting smart, as if they understood hegemony technology and tactics intimately. Something was very wrong about this supposedly primitive planet, and June feared they were all underestimating the threat Earth represented to the established galactic order. The main hegemony battle fleet emerged from hyperspace like a metal storm. 500 warships stretched across the void between Mars and Earth, their massive hulls blotting out the stars. At the center, Supreme Overlord Taiwan's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, dwarfed all others, a 15-kilometer behemoth that had witnessed the fall of 100 civilizations. "Impressive, isn't it?" Dr. Su remarked, watching the holographic display in the underground research facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. The brilliant xenotechnologist had been the first to crack the operating principles of hegemony shield, technology from a recovered scout ship 7 years earlier. Professor Yoon nodded beside her, his weathered hands manipulating the 3D projection to zoom in on specific vessels. "They've brought planet killers," he observed. "Those crescent-shaped vessels carry gravitational weapons that could tear our continental plates apart." "Good thing we won't let them get close enough to use them," Dr. Su replied with a tight smile. The research facility hummed with activity as hundreds of Earth's brightest minds worked tirelessly. In the central lab, the remnants of 3 hegemony scout ships lay disassembled, their components catalogued and reproduced. What had taken alien civilizations centuries to develop, humans had reverse-engineered in less than a decade. But Earth's true advantage wasn't technological, it was biological. "The neural mapping results are fascinating," Dr. Su said, pulling up a new display comparing human and alien brain scans. "Hegemony species evolved for specialization and stability. Their neural pathways are incredibly efficient but highly structured. Humans evolved as generalists with remarkable cognitive flexibility." Professor Yoon pointed to specific patterns. "These intuitive leaps aren't present in any hegemony species. They can follow logical progressions faster than we can, but they struggle with conceptual jumps that humans make naturally. This unique human trait had proven decisive. Where alien engineers would methodically work through problems step by step, humans made creative connections that bypassed entire stages of development. The hegemony had perfected their technology over thousands of years, but humans were reimagining it in months. In the Strategic Command Center beneath Mount Pektu, General Yoon studied the tactical displays with his executive officer, Major Jin. Both wore simple uniforms without decoration, focused entirely on the coming battle. "Their formation is exactly as predicted," Jin noted. "They've used the same approach for 3,000 years. Perfect efficiency, refined to the point of inflexibility." General Yoon nodded. A former chess champion before his military career, he recognized the patterns. "They expect us to either surrender immediately in the face of overwhelming force or attempt a desperate last stand. Instead, we give them neither," Jin replied with a slight smile. The general activated the global command network. "All defense zones initiate Hydra protocol. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, hidden installations powered up. Asteroid bases that appeared to be natural space rocks revealed weapon emplacements. Submarines deep in Earth's oceans launched specialized drones. Orbital platforms disguised as debris suddenly changed trajectory. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Overlord Taiwan watched the approaching battle with cold confidence. The humiliation of the first defeat would be washed away in overwhelming victory. "Begin the assault," he commanded. "No mercy this time." The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, launching tens of thousands of fighter craft. Behind them came troop carriers containing elite shock troops, nightmarish soldiers genetically engineered for combat, with reinforced skeletons and redundant organs. Yet as they approached Earth's orbit, strange things began happening. Fighter squadrons reported navigation systems suddenly recalibrating, sending them off course. Hegemony commanders struggled to maintain formation as invisible forces tugged at their ships. Communication systems experienced increasing delays. "What's happening?" Taiwan demanded. Science Director Ji Young analyzed the readings. "They've deployed some kind of gravitational distortion field. It's subtle, not strong enough to damage our ships, but creating micro-variations that compound over distance." "Impossible," Taiwan hissed. "That technology requires power sources beyond their capability." On Earth, Dr. Su monitored the effectiveness of their countermeasures. "The gravity web is working perfectly," she reported. "Their formations are breaking down. Professor Yoon nodded in satisfaction. The beauty is in the efficiency. We're not trying to match their power. We're using minimal energy to create maximum disruption by targeting the weak points in their approach. The hegemony's battle doctrine relied on perfect synchronization, formations that had been optimized over millennia. But these formations had never been tested against an enemy who understood their fundamental principles and could exploit the slightest deviation. As the assault continued, Major Jin directed specialized strike teams in captured and modified alien craft. These ships, piloted by Earth's best, slipped between the confused hegemony formations, deploying targeted electronic warfare packages that further degraded enemy coordination. Their entire military doctrine is built on hierarchy and perfect execution, Jin explained to her pilots. We fight with initiative and adaptation. Every one of you can make decisions they would require command approval for. The battle expanded across the solar system as human forces revealed more surprises. Hidden bases on Mars, Europa, and Titan launched simultaneous attacks, forcing the hegemony to divide their attention. What should have been a straightforward conquest was becoming a confused, multi-front engagement. Fleet Commander June watched with growing alarm. Supreme Overlord, we should regroup and reassess. Their defenses are far more sophisticated than our intelligence suggested. Weakness, Taewon snarled. Push forward with everything we have. But even as he gave the order, hegemony communications. Officers intercepted disturbing transmissions between Earth Defense Forces. Project Prometheus deployment schedule remains on target, the message read. Final integration complete. Countdown to system-wide activation, 72 hours. What is Project Prometheus? Taewon demanded, but none of his advisors had answers. The intercepted communications continued, deliberately vague yet ominous. Once activated, Prometheus will render conventional warfare obsolete. The hegemony paradigm will cease to exist, General. Yoon had authorized these leaks personally, knowing they would be intercepted. The messages referred to a real project, but revealed nothing of its true nature, allowing hegemony intelligence to fill the gaps with their worst fears. In her laboratory, Dr. Su put the finishing touches on the actual Project Prometheus. The device before her appeared deceptively simple, a crystalline structure housing quantum processors linked to a global network of similar nodes. Are we really ready? Professor Yoon asked quietly. Dr. Su nodded. The neural interface is stable. The distributed network can handle the load. The only question is whether we need to use it yet. Above them, the battle raged across Earth's orbital space. Hegemony warships, despite their overwhelming numbers, found themselves unable to establish the dominance they expected. Human defense systems adapted too quickly, exploiting weaknesses faster than the alien commanders could compensate. And throughout the Imperial fleet, anxiety spread about the mysterious Project Prometheus, with each passing hour bringing them closer to its activation, and an unknown fate that even their overwhelming technological superiority might not protect them from. News of Earth's continued resistance spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On the desert world of Caraxis, once, proud warriors who had been subjugated centuries ago watched holographic recordings of human fighters destroying hegemony warships. In the methane seas of Thulkan 9, aquatic beings who had served as loyal vassals for millennia began questioning why a primitive species could resist when they had not. The Eternal Dominion's communication array lit up with urgent messages from across hegemony space. Supreme Overlord Taewon's scaled fist crushed a crystal goblet as he read the reports. Rebellion on 6 worlds in the Orion Spur, he growled. Manufacturing disruptions in the Cygnus Arm. Protests among the worker castes of Zoltar Prime. Fleet Commander June studied the reports with growing concern. They're all citing Earth's resistance as inspiration. The narrative is spreading. If humans can fight back, why can't they? Silence these uprisings, Taewon commanded. Dispatch the 3rd and 5th fleets to the most troublesome worlds. Make examples of their leaders. Science Director Ji Young stepped forward hesitantly. Supreme Overlord, diverting those fleets will reduce our effective strength against Earth by 30%. Do you suggest we allow rebellion to spread unchecked? Taewon's voice was dangerously quiet. No, Supreme Overlord, Ji Young replied, bowing deeply. I merely provide analysis. As portions of the hegemony fleet peeled away to address the growing unrest, Earth seized the opportunity. Within a hardened bunker beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Diplomat Sun coordinated the most daring operation of the war. Transmission established. With Caraxis resistance, an operator announced. Quantum encryption holding. Sun nodded, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the communication array. Once a language professor specializing in theoretical linguistics, she had become Earth's primary contact with potential alien allies. People of Caraxis, she began, her words translated by advanced systems derived from captured hegemony technology. We fight not just for Earth's freedom, but for a new vision of galactic cooperation. The hegemony's time is ending. Join us, and together we can build something better. Similar messages reached other worlds showing signs of unrest. Earth offered technical assistance, tactical advice, and something more valuable, hope. Where the hegemony used fear and overwhelming force, humans extended friendship and solidarity. One by one, uprisings gained momentum. On the ice world of Nyx, crystalline beings destroyed the hegemony's main processing facility. In the Rigel system, 3 planets simultaneously declared independence. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Commander Min approached Taiwan's war chamber with measured steps. The veteran officer had served the hegemony for 4 centuries, commanding fleets that had conquered dozens of worlds. But what he had witnessed in recent days troubled him deeply. Supreme Overlord, he began formally, I must express serious concerns about our current strategy. Taewon's eyes narrowed. Speak. We're fighting a war on too many fronts. Earth's resistance has inspired rebellion across 17 sectors now. Our supply lines are stretched thin. We should consider diplomatic solutions. Diplomacy? Taewon spat the word. With primitives and traitors, the hegemony does not negotiate with inferiors. Min stood his ground. With respect, Supreme Overlord, our assessment of humans as primitive was clearly flawed. Their technological adaptation rate exceeds anything we've encountered in 10 millennia. The rebellion is growing because they see what we refuse to acknowledge. Our approach is failing. The chamber fell silent. Such direct challenge to the Supreme Overlord was unprecedented. T1 rose slowly from his command throne. Do you suggest surrender? After 10,000 years of unbroken expansion? Not surrender, Min replied carefully. Strategic reassessment. The cost of this conflict already exceeds... Enough! Taewon's roar echoed through the chamber. I will. Hear no more of this cowardice. Deploy the reality warpers. A collective gasp spread among the senior officers present. The reality warping weapons had been banned by the hegemony's own laws for 7,000 years, after their use had accidentally collapsed an entire star system into a dimensional anomaly. Supreme Overlord, Min said, his voice steady despite the tension. Those weapons are forbidden by our most sacred conventions. Their use would constitute a war crime by our own standards. I am the law, Taewon hissed, and I command their deployment against Earth immediately. Min straightened to his full height. I cannot obey that order. It violates the foundational principles of the hegemony. Then you are relieved of command, Taewon snarled. Guards, remove him. As Min was dragged from the chamber, other officers exchanged troubled glances. For the first time in living memory, fractures appeared in the absolute unity of the Imperial Command. On Earth, the war had taken a heavy toll. Cities lay in ruins from orbital bombardments. Millions had been evacuated to underground shelters or off-world bases on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Military casualties mounted daily. Colonel Kang surveyed the devastated landscape from a forward command post in what had once been a thriving coastal city. Her uniform was scorched and torn, her face bearing the marks of recent combat. Status. A report, she ordered, her voice hoarse from shouting commands in the field. Eastern defense grid holding at 60% capacity, her lieutenant reported. Northern quadrant repelled another landing attempt 2 hours ago. Southern forces have fallen back to secondary positions. Kang nodded grimly. They were holding, but barely. Every day brought fresh hegemony attacks, each more desperate than the last. The alien forces were growing reckless, taking chances they would never have considered in previous campaigns. "And Project Prometheus?" she asked. "Chief Engineer Du reports final calibration in progress," the lieutenant replied. "Estimated completion within 18 hours. In a heavily shielded facility beneath the Himalayas, Chief Engineer Du worked with single-minded focus. Around her, a team of the world's best engineers and physicists made final adjustments to a vast array of crystalline structures and quantum processors. "Power synchronization at 93%, called out one of her team members. "Neural interface stability holding." Du nodded without looking up from her work. Dark circles under her eyes testified to days without proper rest, surviving on stimulants and determination. Her hands moved with remarkable precision despite her exhaustion, making microscopic adjustments to critical components. "The orbital relays are reporting hegemony movement," another technician announced. "Massive redeployment in progress. They're bringing in something big." Du finally looked up. "How much time do we have?" "At current velocity, their main force will be in optimal strike position in less than 12 hours. Du returned to her work, her movements even more focused. "Then we have 11 hours to finish. No mistakes, everyone. The entire species is counting on us." Outside the facility, automated defense systems tracked incoming hegemony scouts. Earth's remaining fighters engaged them in fierce dogfights, keeping the alien forces from discovering the true location of Project Prometheus. Across the solar system, the final battle was taking shape. Humanity's resistance had bloodied the nose of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Now that empire was preparing to strike with everything it had, including weapons so terrible its own laws forbade their use. The question hanging in the balance: could Project Prometheus be completed in time, and would it be enough to save not just Earth, but perhaps the entire galaxy from an empire grown desperate and cruel in its dying throes? The Eternal Dominion's reality warpers were nearly ready. These forbidden weapons, sphere-shaped devices that distorted the fabric of space-time, could tear open Earth's crust or collapse its atmosphere in minutes. Supreme Overlord Tai-Wan watched their final preparations with cold satisfaction. "The Phi. Humans have fought well," he conceded to his diminished circle of advisors. "But this ends today." Before the weapons could be deployed, every communication system aboard the hegemony fleet suddenly activated. View screens flickered to life unbidden. Holographic projectors materialized images without commands. Ambassador Choi appeared on every display simultaneously. Her expression was solemn but determined, as her message transmitted to every hegemony vessel in perfect, unaccented imperial tongue. "Attention, Galactic Hegemony forces. This is Earth's final communication before action. You have 1 standard hour to cease all hostilities and withdraw your forces from our solar system. Failure to comply will result in consequences beyond your comprehension. This is not a negotiation." In the war chamber, Tai-Wan's laughter echoed harshly. "Their arrogance is remarkable. They face extinction, yet they demand our surrender." Fleet officers exchanged nervous glances. The humans had consistently defied expectations. Could this be another trick? "Supreme Overlord," one officer ventured. "How did they override our communication systems? Our encryption should be impenetrable." Tai-Wan dismissed the concern with a wave. "Prepare the reality warpers. I want deployment the moment their ultimatum expires. Let their final moments be filled with the knowledge of their complete failure." On Earth, within the heart of Project Prometheus, network architects Hoon and Bo made final preparations. The vast chamber housed thousands of specialized neural interface pods, each containing a volunteer. Scientists, military strategists, engineers, and others who represented humanity's collective knowledge. Neural synchronization at optimal levels, Bo reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls, all nodes reporting ready status. Hoon nodded, her expression intense with concentration. Global distribution network green across all continents, orbital amplifiers in position. What the hegemony failed to understand was that Project Prometheus was not a weapon in the conventional sense. It was something far more revolutionary, a system that could temporarily link human minds across vast distances while preserving individual identity, creating a collective intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. "Initiate final countdown," ordered Chief Engineer Doe from her command station. "T-minus 10 minutes to full activation." Across Earth and throughout hidden bases in the solar system, volunteers entered neural interface pods. Each understood the risks. The technology had been tested, but never at this scale. They were pioneers on the frontier of human evolution. As the countdown reached 0, Doe gave the final command. "Activate Project Prometheus." A pulse of energy spread from the main facility, connecting 2 relay stations worldwide. For a brief moment, electrical systems flickered as power was diverted to the massive network. Then something remarkable happened. Thousands of minds joined in a vast, shared consciousness. Individual thoughts remained distinct, but information flowed freely between them. A physicist's understanding of spatial mechanics merged with a military strategist's tactical knowledge. An engineer's practical implementation skills combined with a philosopher's ethical framework. Network architects Hoon and Bow, specially trained for their role, guided this collective consciousness, preventing it from fragmenting under the weight. You have so many perspectives. Their own minds served as focal points, bringing order to potential chaos. Through this unprecedented mental union, humanity achieved in seconds what would normally take years of collaboration. New insights into hegemony technology emerged. Tactical weaknesses became immediately apparent. Solutions to problems that had seemed insurmountable suddenly crystallized with perfect clarity. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, alarms blared as systems began failing in cascading sequence. Weapons went offline, shield generators overloaded, navigation computers displayed impossible readings. "What's happening?" Taewon demanded, his composure finally cracking. Science Director Ji Young analyzed incoming data with growing horror. "Something is activating throughout our fleet, dormant programs embedded in our systems. But that's impossible. Our technology is internally developed and secure." The truth was devastating. For years, humans had been secretly introducing modified components into the hegemony supply chain. The alien empire's vast size had become its weakness. They couldn't manufacture everything internally and relied on thousands of worlds for parts and resources. Earth operatives had carefully infiltrated these production facilities, introducing microscopic modifications that remained dormant until now. On view screens throughout the fleet, Ambassador Choi appeared. "Again, we have activated our countermeasures. Your weapons are disabled, your shields are failing. But more importantly, we have control of your faster-than-light drive systems across your entire empire." She paused, allowing the implications to sink in. "Without FTL capability, your empire cannot exist. Your worlds would be isolated, taking years or decades to communicate using conventional means. Your power structure would collapse within months." Taewon's face contorted with rage. "This is a bluff. No species could achieve this level of infiltration." As if in answer, FTL drives throughout the fleet suddenly powered down. Emergency systems prevented catastrophic failures, but the message was clear. Earth could disable them permanently with another command. "This is not a negotiation," Ambassador Choi continued. "It is a demonstration of capability. We do not wish to destroy you. Unlike the hegemony, we believe in self-determination for all species. Withdraw your forces, end your empire of domination, and help us build something better." The hegemony council chamber erupted in chaos. Some officers called for fighting to the death. Others urged immediate surrender. The unity that had defined the empire for millennia shattered in moments. Fleet Commander June, reinstated after Commander Min's arrest, stepped forward. "Supreme Overlord, we must consider their terms. If they truly control our FTL technology, fighting is futile." "Cowards, all of you!" Taewon roared. But looking around the chamber, he saw what he had never expected. His officers were no longer cowed by his rage. The aura of invincibility that had surrounded him and the hegemony had vanished. 3 days. Later, the formal surrender was signed. The Galactic Hegemony, ruler of half the galaxy for 10,000 years, capitulated to a species that had barely achieved spaceflight. Project Prometheus continued operating at reduced capacity, allowing human leaders to coordinate the complex transition that followed. Network architects Hoon and Bo guided the process, ensuring the collective intelligence remained stable and focused on peaceful reconstruction. Representatives from former vassal worlds arrived at Earth for a historic summit. In a vast assembly, hall built specifically for the occasion, Ambassador Choi addressed delegates from over 500 planets. Today we begin something unprecedented, a galactic federation built on mutual respect and cooperation rather than domination. Earth does not seek to replace the hegemony as rulers. We seek partners in creating a better future for all species. The transition would not be easy. Millennia of imperial rule had left deep scars. But as delegates discussed the framework for this new alliance, something remarkable emerged: hope. Species that had been enemies under hegemony rule found common ground. Ancient rivalries began to heal in the face of new possibilities. On the final day of the summit, as the last agreements were signed, Chief Engineer Du stood with network architects Hoon and Bo on a balcony overlooking the proceedings. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when we started?" Bo asked quietly. Du shook her head. "We just wanted to survive. But now—" She gestured to the vast chamber where hundreds of species mingled freely. "Now we have a chance to build something truly extraordinary." Hoon smiled, watching the dawn of a new era. The hegemony thought they were the pinnacle of galactic evolution. They never understood that true advancement comes not from domination, but from connection. Below them, the diverse assembly of beings, some humanoid, others utterly alien in form, continued their work, laying the foundation for a federation that would ultimately span the galaxy, guided not by fear, but by the radical notion that freedom and cooperation could create something greater than even the mightiest empire. The end